Fantasy Football Hub are currently offering any FPL TV viewer a huge 50% pre-season discount on their annual packages. By becoming a member, you'll gain access to one of the biggest FPL communities, with extensive Opta stats, player comparisons, fixture tickers, planning spreadsheets, community WhatsApp groups, and even team reveals every game week from some of the world's best FPL managers. To get signed up and receive a 50% discount this pre-season, then simply click the link in the description box below. Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. I've made a couple of changes to my Game Week 1 team since my first draft video a few weeks back, so let's talk through those changes now, and also some decisions that I'm still weighing up before the all-important Game Week 1 deadline. There's still a few things I'm undecided on, and also a few more pre-season friendlies left to monitor, not to mention the Community Shield between Liverpool and Man City, which could certainly have an impact on my decisions. Starting with my bench options, there's been some interesting developments in the transfer market, and with Andreas Pereira and Neco Williams now having sealed their moves to Fulham and Forest respectively, they should both be very handy budget starters for their teams. Brentford's Josh Da Silva is also a consideration for this 4.5 million midfielder slot, who could also be a budget starter playing quite far forward. The majority of my defence remains the same as things stand, with Edison, Cancelo, Trent and James keeping their place in my side. In fairness though, when I have toyed around with my Game Week 1 team, only Trent has been the one completely locked in. So far during pre-season, notably, Reece James has often been used in a back three, whilst Chelsea continue their search to sign another centre-back, so that's still something I'm monitoring closely. To justify his price of 6 million, and for him to offer any kind of attacking threat, I need him to be playing at wing-back. Chelsea have also had a fairly underwhelming pre-season so far, most recently losing 4-0 to Arsenal, and granted, although that is just a warm-up game, it was more Tuchel's negative comments and demeanour after it that has me concerned about Chelsea options in general. As for Edison and Cancelo, well, I'm keen to stick with both of them, as Man City are, in my opinion, the most trustworthy defence, particularly given their kind run of opening fixtures. But of course, there's always temptation there to downgrade them for cheaper assets and invest the funds elsewhere, especially when Cancelo's teammate Kyle Walker does come in at a huge 2 million cheaper, which certainly has its appeal. The plan at the moment is to keep tabs on Man City's ongoing chase for Brighton's Cucurella, and also see if Kyle Walker does start that Community Shield over the weekend. If he does start that one and City don't sign another fullback, then I may just be tempted to go there and free up that 2 million. As for the midfield, well, just the one change here so far, with me downgrading Newcastle's Bruno to Wolves' Pedro Netto. With Neto currently being a very popular template pick, I can't say I'm overly excited about this one, but within the 5.5 million bracket, he does seem to be one of the standout options, already bagging 3 goals in pre-season. He also importantly boasts 2 great opening fixtures against Leeds and Fulham, which gives us time to assess if any other players in this bracket then emerge. With all that considered, it's becoming harder and harder to ignore him at this minuscule 5.5 valuation. I've tried to look at other players in this price bracket, and there's a long list of others around this price that I've considered. I'm just not convinced they're better options than Neto at this point. In fairness, I'm not a huge fan of any players in this bracket, and that's why releasing funds from Cancelo is more tempting, as it would allow me to invest a bit more in midfield here. The forward line is where the big changes have come from my side, with me currently switching from Erling Haaland to Harry Kane up front. I'm sure this one is a 50-50 that will go down to the wire, just like it will for many an FPL manager. But considering how sharp Kane has looked in pre-season, already bagging 5 goals, and considering with Kane we know that he's locked to play 90 minutes of every game, I'm starting to feel it'd be more sensible to back the tried and tested option to begin things, rather than going for Haaland, who's new to the league and has so far only played 45 minutes of pre-season. There's been a few small suggestions that perhaps the City forward will need some time to get up to speed, and that therefore has me concerned to begin the season with Haaland. Of course, the upcoming Community Shield on the weekend will no doubt have a big bearing on this decision, however, and it's being without Haaland in Game Week 2, when Man City face Bournemouth at home, that's the biggest concern here. The other big change to my side is accommodating a big upgrade up front. Previously I had Mitrovic here, but with downgrades elsewhere, I've managed to squeeze in Gabriel Jesus. The Brazilian's another one that has looked superb during pre-season, and considering Arsenal's kind opening start to the season fixture-wise, I'm struggling to look elsewhere. Granted, Arsenal's opening 2 games against Palace and Leicester can certainly prove tricky, but it's their fixtures for the longer term that appeal to me. Conveniently, their nice fixture run takes us all the way to Game Week 8, notably the first international break, and that could be when I utilise the first wildcard. I think the biggest pull for me here though is simply his very generous valuation from FPL, because I fully expected him to come in at 9 rather than 8 million. I've tried to look elsewhere, but as of right now, I think Jesus is one of the most locked players in my squad. His value, his long-term fixtures, and how quickly he looks to have settled into this Arsenal team all looks very hard to ignore. I have considered opting for Callum Wilson in the short term here instead, whose opening 2 fixtures do look more favourable, and that would give me a chance to see how Jesus gets on against Palace and Leicester first. I'm just not so keen on booking in pre-planned transfers. Having made downgrades elsewhere in order to afford Jesus up front, this leaves me with 5 million for the last defender spot. In my initial draft I had Perisic here at 5.5, but notably he's not featured much during pre-season, so I'm slightly concerned about his minutes. Perhaps Tottenham's final pre-season game against Roma on the 30th can clear this up for us, as I still really like him as an option, but will need to find 0.5 million from somewhere to re-include him. With only 5 million left in this draft, at that price it's probably between Trippier or Zinchenko, and to avoid the Arsenal triple up, for now it's Trippier that gets the nod, just for his guarantee of minutes to begin the season when compared to the new Arsenal signing. Will Trippier be in my squad come the deadline? Well, I'm not fully convinced on that. I think he's a superb option, and notably he did rack up 2 assists in their most recent pre-season game. I just don't like the fact that he faces both Man City and Liverpool in 2 of his opening 5. So with just over a week left to go, that's where my draft stands currently. But I'll be honest and say I'm still yet to put a single squad together that I can say I'm completely 100% happy with. No matter what team I build this year, there's always something that I'm not completely satisfied about. I think a lot of that does come down to accommodating 2 premiums in Salah and Kane, which always means having to make sacrifices elsewhere and include a few cheaper options that I'm not fully convinced about. Harry Kane has looked so sharp in pre-season though, and he importantly does provide me with flexibility, so that even if he doesn't perform, then my team is already set up to bring in the popular Haaland should he hit the ground running. Having that second premium also provides me with a strong captaincy alternative to Mo Salah. As for the midfield, well, as mentioned in my previous team video, I'm really trying to accommodate a second 8 million midfielder here somehow, as I really like that price bracket this year. There's Mahrez, Maddison, Mason Mount, all options I really like. And that's why opting for Kyle Walker over Cancelo does have its appeal to release 2 million. From there, I could take Trippier down to a 4.5 million defender such as Johnny at Wolves, and that'd give me enough cash to then upgrade Netto to an 8 million midfielder. At that point, I really love the front 6 of this team, but the defence is certainly lacking. The plan for me now is to keep an eye on all the remaining friendlies, and most importantly the Community Shield this weekend, which should be very interesting from an FPL perspective. Strong performances there from the likes of Haaland, Mahrez or Kyle Walker could certainly have an impact on my decisions. I'll then release a final team selection video shortly before the deadline with my final Game Week 1 team. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like and most importantly get subscribed to FPL TV. You can also hit the notification bell so you always know when a new video goes live. I'll be back very soon, and I've got 2 very useful videos coming your way which I think will offer you a lot of value. The first one is 5 big mistakes that beginners make in FPL, so a great one for those of you new to the FPL game, and then following that there'll be another 5 big mistakes that even the experienced managers make. So keep an eye out for those, and once they're live I'll add the thumbnails here on screen so you can click and go and watch them now. FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all very soon.